Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and the theme that we have is about diversity and inclusion best practices, and also how we pursue it in the hybrid mode. Before I get into some best practice sharing and my thoughts, I would like to talk about some of the instances in my own life, and which will make you ponder why there is need for good D&I practices and diversity and inclusion are two very different things. More than 20 years ago, when I was pregnant and delivered the baby, when I was wanting to come back after 3 months, my manager said that you have some leave, you could actually take it easy. So I said, okay. So he said, if you like, you want to come back half time, I can give you a role which allows you to work half time, and that way your leave will be like double. Like instead of 2 month leave, you can have 4 months in a half time way. I was very pleased, and I started working, and I heard the conversation of my manager with his manager. The super boss said, why do you even want a woman to come back who can't bill? Because I was in consulting and traveling around crazy even till I delivered the baby. If she can't bill, why do we need her back? And my manager was trying to justify, saying she has paid forward and there is enough work she can do, even remotely or coming half time to office. So that was one conversation. It made me wonder, it was a global organization, and we consider it diverse organization. There was another very multinational global organization. Without naming any of them, I'm just telling you some. And there are many stories, but I will just share select few. Very multinational organization. I was a consecutive top performer, and I was asked what next, and I chose a role in a different group. I was told it's very different. Um, Fine. So I had a very supportive boss who resigned within 3 months. And I had a new boss, first time a woman boss in my career. And as things started unfolding and she started doing one-on-ones and career paths and all, she looked at me and she said, Renu, what an auntie look you carry. Get rid of these saris and just have a makeover. I can guide you in that. And every day she looked at me, and the idea was that and she even made mention that, look, we are a multinational organization, how about a Western attire? And for a year, I thought, okay, let me heed to the advice because I had no go. I heeded to the advice with a lot of hesitation. I carried Western attire for a year, and then breathed a sigh of relief as I moved to next group. So this is the state of diversity and inclusion we are talking about in very, very, um, established multinationals. Anyway, so first of all, I want to make it a point that diversity is about, having diverse working, employees in your company. But inclusion is about making them comfortable, making them feel included. And it's about every day coming to work, whether you feel comfortable coming to work, and it's whether your talents are respected, and whether you feel needed. And so you bring in all the diverse people, but if you do not make them feel included, the whole purpose of diversity is lost. And even diversity is at an org level as well as an individual project, work group, or whatever, all levels. But inclusion is very, very, I would say, practiced at a manager level, a project level, a work group level, and then it becomes difficult for an organization to guard how to practice this inclusion. And that is why some organizations call themselves as equal opportunity, and D&I awards and D&I assessment every year and whatnot. So let me cover a few basics. I'm not trying to demean organizations. Everybody is trying to do their bit, and but still there are biases and preconceived notions and stereotypes, and it's not just about women. Diversity and inclusion is about so many, very, very different groups. Is this working? Then I can. Hello? So let me talk about, first of all, why is diversity and inclusion an important topic? So we all know that there are proven data points that diverse organizations carry higher revenue, higher innovation potential, higher retention, etc. One of the McKinsey data points is that in diverse organizations, they are likely 5.4 times more likely to have higher retention. And if you go down to those data points, it says 9.8 times higher looking forward to coming to work. Okay. So without going into too many data points, let's see what is diversity all about. What all kind of diverse workforce we could think of. So you hear about the demographic diversity, the cultural diversity, the cognitive diversity, the functional diversity, intergenerational, linguistic, sexual orientation, social economic diversity, neurodiversity, etc. So you need to have inclusion across all these levels, and that is what we are talking about. So what kind of D&I practices it takes to drive inclusion when you have brought in all these different kind of diverse background people. So number one, that do we have an inclusive workplace? So first of all, do you have a statement that we promote diversity? Because many organizations even say that, 50 plus we don't hire. Or, okay, now the, maternity benefit is 6 months, you never know when will this person go on leave. Or a young woman, she may get married. Or, but this inclusion problem is not just about women or disabled, etc., etc. Men also face discrimination. There's an inclusion problem there as well. If you are a non-smoking person, you don't know what all gets spoken when people go for smoke. So the inclusion problem everywhere. So we talk about what all kind of inclusion best practices. So do we have inclusion at leadership level? So look at the data point. Fortune 500 companies. Only 24 women CEOs, 3 blacks, 3 gays, and 1 lesbian. That's the state of diversity in Fortune 500, with all so much talk about diversity and inclusion. So which means there is more talk, need to be more talk of inclusion and more best practices. So coming to some best practices, acknowledgement of people from different cultural and religious backgrounds. So question to you. So we bring in people from different backgrounds. How do we acknowledge that there is something called different culture and different religion? So what organizations do is, okay, let people celebrate. You have employee engagement as a work stream where employees themselves form groups, and be it Onam or be it Eid or be it Christmas, they celebrate, or even Guru Nanak Jayanti or whatever. So it basically encourages people to come forward with their religious and cultural beliefs and practice it and feel proud of it, right, and not hide behind. Somebody who needs to practice namaz 5 times a day and 3 times happens to be during work hours, there's a room where they can practice it. Mothers who need to express, they need to go in mother room and they can express milk. So, and the crashes which are very much there in the close to office where this can be done. So, these are the ways organizations practice inclusion. Foster a culture where every voice is heard. And then regardless of age, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, physical conditions, cultural background or country of origin, everybody is welcome and bring their whole selves to work. Now, this is all said, but how do you practice it is again a challenge for any organization, and I will talk about what are the challenges in doing this and what excuses we hear. There's so much talk about women equity, and equity starts with equal pay and same pay for same work, etc. But if you have different pay for same level for a man or a disabled or a woman, you better openly open a dialogue about it rather than putting the shoe under the carpet and try to rectify it over the time. That's another. So open a dialogue about any gender-based or community-based or whatever, if lack of equality is there. Welcome multilingual workforce, but at the same time, we do discourage people talking in pockets in Tamil or Bengali or whatever. Some organizations even get labeled as here, if you are a Tamil, you'll get a job easily because top management is Tamil. So that kind of the labeling of the organization we need to avoid. Make a place for multicultural, multilinguistic, but at the same time don't encourage one specific language in boardrooms or in manager meetings, etc. Foster diverse thinking, ideas pitched in meetings by diverse groups, because people think differently and they solve problems differently, people have different neuro abilities, so allow space for that. Build a multi-generational workforce, so some companies get known for, oh, I'm a startup, our average age group is below 25. Don't get into that syndrome. A multi-generational workforce, intergenerational, is the way to go. So you see the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z present at the workplace and try to practice multi-generational. Eliminate biases in evaluation process. Evaluating whether for hiring or for promotions, don't take these diverse aspects into promotion. Promote it for the capability, for the level, for the role. Then there are employee engagement surveys in most companies, right? And if I had that option when a manager forced me, or in a way, not direct, indirectly forced me to wear certain kind of attires, that means I did not feel included if I went in a sari, I was given a look. If I had option, yes, of course I could have gone for an open door or a complaint, but then in that case there are, repercussions and you get boycotted by the manager and there are, suppose there was an option to do a quiet feedback in a 360 feedback process which happens every year, then these aspects very openly come up. And somebody was talking about using AI for after this kind of feedback comes in to take action against certain managers. So that certainly needs to happen very privately. It should not happen that manager comes to know a certain person did something and then, right? Use independent groups to conduct focus groups. So when you do focus group, it should not be like a manager sitting there and that will influence the group itself. They will be just afraid to speak anything. So do the focus group meetings by people who are unbiased or who are not directly belonging within, hierarchy of that group. You personalize one-on-one discussions. So for example, I know somebody is minority in my team. She's, let's say, wears certain attire like a scarf or comes from a background where not many women have come out of that community to get out to work. So knowing her limitations, I should personalize my one-on-one and accordingly, and not giving her any specific privileges, but within my HR framework, whatever I can do, rather than making it very public and the making fuss about it, understand what the value employees bring you and be flexible with employees. Make technology available to everyone. It is very easier said, but there are certain communities which are underprivileged and do not have access to the technology, India is a privileged country where even pan ka dukan walas and rickshaw walas and home household maids are carrying phone. We should be proud of it that we have brought in um, various levels into digital literacy and technology availability. But there are communities where internet is not available, and that makes them underprivileged. So practice that. And words matter. If you keep talking diversity, but you show pictures where there are only women or only men or only disabled or no mix of the various communities, then you are not carrying the right message. So be careful about that. So those are some of the diversity and inclusion best practices I spoke about. Now let me just quickly touch upon in hybrid world what happens, how things turn different. Right. So I talked about various communities. You have some minority communities, and you have people who are with disability and all that. So there are communities which are traditionally underrepresented. And when you are doing this come back to work and come back full time, or come back 3 days a week, come back 2 days a week, or come back 1 week a month, etc., you're basically providing a flexibility. And which are the groups who are more likely to welcome that flexibility and hybrid? And in case you don't offer that hybrid, they are likely to resign. Let me talk about some data points from McKinsey on that. Younger people, 18 to 34, who are either finding matches or raising little kids or taking care of elderly, 54% more likely to quit to find a hybrid model. Women are 10% more likely to quit if they are not offered hybrid model, and disabled are 14% more likely to quit. So inclusive, other way around, if you look at data points, inclusive organizations have 47% more likelihood of people staying on, etc. So just top 3 things that if you survey people, what they want organizations to do to be higher in index of inclusion. Number 1 is work-life support. Number 2, team building. And number 3, mutual respect. Now you'll be surprised that mutual respect is something that is still being taught, and it doesn't by default exist at workplaces. So what are the challenges? I'll just wrap up in less than a minute. What are the challenges in doing all this? And what do you hear as excuses? Number 1, stereotypes still exist. There is resistance to change. There is lack of inclusion and belongingness by the people who are talking about inclusion. There are, often you will cite about data privacy and confidentiality and etc. regulation that, oh, I don't even know who is disabled. Somebody declared disability, but I don't have access to that data. I don't know. In my Excel sheet who is woman or a man, or their date of birth, or their disability status. I purposely don't want to do anything about it, so I say I don't know. I close my eyes. There is positive side of it, there is negative side of it. Global operations. My global operations work differently, cultures are very different, and people work in different time zones, they speak different language. I don't know what kind of inclusion I should practice. Unconscious bias. You don't even ask a woman if she can travel, she can take an international assignment. Don't give her benefit of doubt. Just take a decision. You're going out for a smoke. You know that the lady doesn't smoke, but you can still say, would you like to come along? What's wrong? Let her not smoke. Let her still be there. If you're holding a cocktail party, why can't she come? Let her not booze. So inclusion, there are basically all these challenges to inclusion. Integration of different working styles, intergenerational, inclusion problems. Oh, it's too old, our company has a lot of these young people. They don't appreciate it. So this kind of behavior is what basically makes organizations less diverse and less inclusive. So then there are many other things, communication issues, language barriers, cultural differences, lack of representation in leadership. You don't lead by example and have people in leadership, carrying message. generational differences, accessibility and accommodation issues when you bring in disabled people, mental health consideration with neurodiversity, and balancing individual and collective goals, like you say, cognitive diversity, right? So then access to technology. Some people come with a background, they have not had access to technology, and you expect them to be at par. So I should wrap up by saying that look, it is not just about diversity and inclusion, it's also about equity. And equity is not about treating everybody equal. Equity is about knowing the person's background and treating them with the context of their background. That is what equity is about. Thank you.